Hey guys, Mr. T here, just doing a quick video. I thought it would be a good idea because I've started getting maths from students to check. It doesn't seem to be that you've really interpreted the example DI that well, with the idea of the number of variations of strategy that you need to do. So that's what this video is going to be about. In this DI, you're pretending that you've taken out a basic loan with a bank to purchase the house you've chosen. So for my example, I'm going to refer to the default home loan that we've been using in class. Okay, the one that was 500 grand, 5%, 30 years, monthly repayments. So I've just gone to the bank and I've asked, can I take out a loan for 500 grand at 5% for 30 years? This is what I'm going to do if I don't do anything. And the interest I'm going to pay on that loan is $466,279.60. So the start of your DI must establish the amount of interest paid on that loan. So we're pretending that I've done this for my DI that I'm pretending to write right now. The remainder of part A of your DI is to show your understanding of how the various interest minimization strategies work. It's not just a one-off application. You need enough variations of the strategy to show a trend. If I just say that I save X amount of money by paying $50 more per month, that's not a trend, that's an observation, okay? If I say that I save X amount of money by paying $50 more per month, and then a Y amount of money, which is larger than X, saved by paying $100 more per month, I have a trend that I can refer to which says that the more that I pay per month, the more that I save on my home loan. So that's what we're talking about here. You need enough variations of the strategy to show trends in the strategy so you can analyze those trends. That's where the analysis of your results in this DI comes from. So in this DI, you should have enough variations of the strategies to show the effects of timing of application when you do the strategy and the extent of the application, so how much you do. So for example, this is the example I'm going to use for this video. If I wanted to show how the refinancing strategy works, which is reducing the interest rate, the timing and extent of the strategy can be fully shown with 3 variations. Okay? 1% lower interest rate after 5 years, that's the base effect. That's the base strategy that I want to show. And then, if I do 2% lower interest rate after 5 years, what's the purpose of that variation? Well, the only difference between variation 1 and variation 2 is the interest rate is 2% lower. So that's showing the extent of the strategy. That should show that the lower the rate, the more that you save, because the timing didn't change. The 5 years here, 5 years here. And then the third strategy, 1% lower, so the same as the first one again, but after 10 years. So what's the only difference between strategy 1 and 3? It's the timing. So this one is going to show the effect of timing. And the later the refinancing, the less that you're going to save. So that I can talk about, in the analysis, the lower the rate that I can get with a different bank, the better for me. That's a trend. And the later that you do it, the worse it is for you, which is another trend. So that you can say that if you have an opportunity to lower the rate, you want it as early as possible. Okay, so let's do this. This is an example main body section. This is just one strategy out of the many that you've been taught. So have a little heading, refinancing, lowering the interest rate. You're going to write the introduction explaining what the strategy is and how it should work. That's been taught to you. You need to say it in your own words. But what I will show you is a full model calculation. Refinancing to 1% lower after 5 years. So this is a TVM solver situation. PV, PMT, FV, PY, and CY. So we need to work out the first 5 years because the refinancing happens after 5 years. So the default loan was 365, 500,000, 12, solve for PMT. So we've got negative 2684.11, negative 2684.11. I'm re-entering that because I'm rounding to 2 decimal points now. And I want to know what the remaining debt is after 5 years, which is 5 times 12, which is 60 months. So 65, started at 500,000. My payments were negative $2,684.11. FV comes to, and that's what I sold for, negative 459,143.53, rounded to 2 decimal points. And this was PY and CY 12. Now I can do after refinance, financing down 1%. We want to work out how long it's going to take. I'm going to pretend that I'm maintaining the same interest payment. Sorry, the rate is going to be lower because I refinance PV. I got the debt down to 459,143. So 459,143.53. I'm going to pretend that I'm maintaining the repayments, so negative 2,684.11. That's why I'm finding N, because technically I'm paying too much for a 4% rate, because that 2,684 was a 5% rate. I don't want to owe the bank anything after the loan. PY and CY are both 12. So 459,143.53. 4 solve, that tells me 253.75 to 2 decimal points. So interest after refinancing equals, and I find the interest of the first part of the loan, interest for first 5 years equals $2,684.11 times by the 60 payments that were made, take away the 500 grand minus the amount that I got the debt down to, because that subtraction is going to tell me how much debt was actually paid down with those 60 payments. So that's going to be 2,684.11 times by 60, take away 500 grand, take 459,143.53. That tells me 190.13 interest in the first 5 years. And the interest after refinancing, this text is extremely large. Remember, the font is size 10, allowed by SACE, that's double that. Interest after refinancing, 2,684.11 times by 253.75, take away the debt I got down to 459,143.53, but I'm subtracting 0, so it doesn't really matter. 2,684.11 times 253.75, take away 459,143.53. 221,949.38 to 2 decimal points. Total interest equals 221,949.38 plus 120,190.13, $342,139.51 interest saved compared to default loan. The default loan was this, $466,279.60, $466,279.60. Take away the interest I paid with the refinancing, $466,279.6. Take away $342,139.51. 124,140.09. Interest saved. So I can put that information now into this table, my summary table, like you did for shares. We're showing here in this column that it doesn't affect the ongoing affordability of the loan, this refinancing. I'm choosing to make the interest, the repayments stay the same because I could afford them in the first 5 years. I'm paying that much interest. Therefore, that tells me compared to my default loan, I save that much in interest. After the table, once you fill it out with all these strategies, you're going to analyze the trends shown in the table and the affordability of the strategies. That's what this whole DI is about, okay? But that is up to you. I'm just showing you that you need variations here. You need a repeat, similar to the shares DI. There was multiple calculations. You had 6 companies. That is the structure of this DI. Where do I do the maths? Because this is my model calculation here. Where do I do the maths for the 2% lower after 5 years and the 1% lower after 10 years? They would go in the appendices. Okay? So, Appendix 1, 2% lower after 5 years. Do the TVM solver and all the interest calculations there. Appendix 2, 1% lower after 10 years. Do all the maths underneath there. And then state some references. Full calculations for remaining strategies can be found in appendices 1 and 2. That's extremely large, so I'll make that smaller. In the interest of making the video short enough, I'm not going to do the full calculations for these two, but that's what we would do in your DI. And if you're smart about the variations, you can copy and paste a lot of stuff. So this 2% lower after 5 years, that's the same timing as this. So I already have the maths for the first 5 years. So literally, I could go first 5 years for 2% lower after 5 years. Literally the only difference would be, I would only want to copy this in the appendix calculations, and it's going to be down 2%. So I should delete that. That's going to be 3. Everything else remained the same. Use TVM solver. It's already in there. 223.48 to 2 decimal points. So literally I just need to work out the interest after refinancing, and then the total interest, and then the interest saved, so I can chuck it into the table. Okay? So it's not as painful as you probably think it's going to be. Once you've done the maths here, what you should be able to show is the lower you can get the rate, the more you save compared to default, and the later you refinance, the less you save compared to the default. You can talk about that. Alright, so that's in general. That is how a section of your DI should go. You want to have multiple strategies to show how they work, and have a summary table, repeated calculations go in the appendices, have proper appendix references, and then you analyze what the trends show across your variations. All right, hopefully that video helps you out. See you in the next one.